Good morning. Welcome to CIS 137, Class 14. Today we have the 20s today are users. We're going to go over users, why they're important, uh, usability, accessibility. We're going to go over how to embed a YouTube video in HTML and how to create a YouTube component in React. So users. Users are important because they determine the success of your website. So if you don't have any users actually on your site, you don't have any website visitors, then your site is not going to actually succeed. Uh, they're also in a hurry. They want to be able to find uh, what they are looking for on your website as quickly as possible. And once they find that, they want to be able to do whatever task they were there to complete, and they want to be able to extract whatever information they can from the website fast and easily. And they also are very fickle, so if they can't do what they want as quickly and easily as possible, then they'll just easily get frustrated and leave. Uh, they also hate to scroll, so you actually have to think about, keeping things above the fold. So above the fold is a newspaper term. When you get a newspaper, it's folded in half, and then the top part has most uh, the best stories, the most relevant stories, and then people usually look at those, and then that may be all they see of the newspaper. On websites, it's the same thing. It's all the most relevant information should be on that first page that you see, and above the fold means you shouldn't have to scroll anywhere to see it. So as soon as you start scrolling, all that stuff's below the fold. So we'll see examples of that in the next slide. Another thing you should do to promote usability on your site is to group related items and limit the number of groups you have per page. You should also, for your site, you should have your logo and tagline, navigation bar, links to utilities, and search all inside of the header of your site. So that should be the first thing on your site that users are expecting to be there just because of the conventions of websites these days. Users also expect to be able to click on your logo and go to your home page and click on a cart icon and go to a shopping cart. The page should behave how users expect. And if anything's clickable or a link on your page, it should be immediately obvious to the user that you can click on that element. So let's look at some examples of good usability. First, we'll look at Amazon. You'll see they have their logo on their header. They have a search box, all the utilities, all these items are grouped together. So we have a group over here. We have the main navigation group over here. And then you see this group here. And this is all above the fold. They also have ads right here. So this site is a pretty standard design. It's very easy to just start searching for a product or to start browsing, but mainly when you go to Amazon, you're probably going to search for a product. Let's see the next one. So Yahoo, same thing. You have the search box right at the top. You have the logo. You have the navigation. Most people that come to Yahoo may be interested in mail, so it has the mail link right away. And it has a mail link up here as well. So Yahoo, very mail centric, but then they have news right after that. So you can see above the fold, you can see the news and what's trending. You see the weather. It's like a big newspaper. Overstock.com is also a good usability site. It's pretty similar to Amazon. You have your logo, search, coupon up here and coupon right here. And then the account information, all your personal information, and the navigation for actually searching for what you want to buy. I guess furniture is most popular in Overstock, or maybe this is targeting me somehow. They have furniture first in their list. Google's fun because it's very clean design. They only have this search box that stands out on the page. But then once you start typing, you know, then you get a more standard layout where it has a logo, it has the navigation, and it has everything, all the profile information grouped up here, and it has a search box right at the top. Now, the only thing I don't like about this good web design results is the all of the above the fold stuff is ads and it has this, Google trying to figure out my result, but the real results are all down here. So Google knows that, yeah, they're probably experts on UI design where they know you'll go past these ads in order to get below the fold to the results you want. Here's some other. So those are all major players in the game, but let's look at some other good design. So this is more like a marketing website and a shopping website built into one. So it's promoting a brand of Tinker watches. Now, the only thing I don't like is, how this text here is not that readable and this button is not clear. But you can scroll and see, it has pretty cool marketing layout. And if you actually try to buy something, well, yeah, so, well, now I can't even find what I'm looking for. So maybe this site isn't as good as I was thinking. It looks cool though. There are some drawbacks to this site, but the way this page right here is really usable, where you can see, you can easily see what you're filtering on here. So small, bigger, biggest, and then you can pick your finish and your strap color to find your perfect Tinker watch. So this site is pretty usable. That home page is a little disorienting at first. Only problem with it. And here's more like a brochure site coming up. So there's one usability problem, and that loading screen took a while. Some users will just, leave once they see that loading screen. I think it's going to take too long to load. So this is a brochure site where it's just a single page, and each of these links just bring you down the page. So it's like browsing a brochure. You can see the past of the Nobby's Lighthouse, present, future, accessibility, location. So the whole point of this site is to tell you about Navi's Lighthouse. So that's all it does. It just provides one page, and and it looks like a brochure. It's like going through the folds of a brochure. Those are good examples of good usability. There's plenty of examples for bad usability out there. I don't want to pollute your mind with those right now. I want you to think positively with good usability. So study these sites and look how they do their headers, look what they keep above the fold, and how they try to target exactly what the user wants to do, all above the fold, right in the middle. Like the primary task is very prominent. So at least say accessibility. So accessibility is different from usability because accessibility just has to do with making your website accessible to as many users as possible, and especially including disabled users to be able to use your site. So disabled users would generally use, if someone's uh, can't see, then they would use a screen reader that will go through your site and read all the content. If someone's not able to use a mouse, they'll use a keyboard to try to go through your site. They'll press tab um, or the arrow keys and enter in order to interact with your site. So you need to make your site uh, be able to accept that kind of input or accept that kind of browser, the screen reader. In fact, for some sites, it's legally required. It just depends on the American Disability Act, and there's some FCC laws that have to do with making your site accessible for disabled users. So you have to think about that. Some users may not be able to view images, watch videos, or even hear audio. So for images, we're going to go over some guidelines for how to deal with people that can't see the images or watch videos or hear audio. So the general guideline you want to think of with accessibility is that all the content on your site should be usable or viewable if the images, CSS, and JavaScript are all disabled. Now in our case with React, we don't have, our site does exist if all those things are disabled, but it just says that you need JavaScript in order to view the site. So we would have to do something different in order to support no JavaScript. So simple accessibility guidelines. These are some starter guidelines for accessibility. There's a lot more to it, but the general guidelines are to always specify an alt attribute in the image tag. And I've gone over this before, but just hammering it in. The alt attribute should describe the image, but if it's a decorative image, you can just set it to a blank string. But no matter what, you should have an alt tag. So if it's like a border or a background, you can just set the alt tag to empty string. Another accessibility guideline is that all content and features should be accessible via keyboard. So you should be able to press tab to switch elements and should jump to the next element that you're expecting. And you should be able to press enter or space to activate the elements. And you should be able to use the arrow keys to scroll. Another good accessibility guidelines for HTML5 is to always use relevant HTML5 tags. So for example, if you have an image with a caption, you could use the figure and fig caption tags. If you have your footer, you can use a footer tag. Each section could use a section tag, and the header could use a header tag. You can have articles on the sides and the navigation as well. If you want to see a complete guide, you can visit this website. Recommend reading the guide. So all this is pretty much boilerplate up here. You don't have to worry about this. You don't have to worry about this. It's all down in here, the guidelines. So talked about text alternatives for non-text content. So that includes images, videos, any audio, decoration. Has guidelines for all of those. So captioning your videos, captioning audio, providing a transcript, describing the videos would help with accessibilities. So separating foreground from background, thinking about color blindness. Go through all these guides and you can, if follow all these guidelines, your site will be the best accessibility it could be. So is users and usability and accessibility very important to your site. About users, it's like if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear it, did it make a sound? That's the riddle of websites. If no visitors come to your website, and it never actually renders, then is it a website? Does it actually exist? So let's jump into YouTube videos. So embedding a YouTube video in HTML is actually pretty simple. So let's do it. In fact, I'm going to do it in the text editor. Sorry. Okay. We're going to go straight from scratch and embed some HTML. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to YouTube and pick up a video. Let's see. It's all above the fold content. Let's just grab some with the new studio setup, the way things work now. Avengers Infinity War featurette. That sounds fine. Then we click the share button. And then we click embed. And here's the HTML that YouTube just provides for you to play videos. And this will replicate the player onto your site. So just go ahead and select all this and copy it. We'll go over to our text document and we'll just paste it in. Let's pretty it up a little bit. I'm just going to tab that in and put this on a new level. And we're going to put each of these elements on its own line, or each of these attributes. Put that width over there. Let's bring it over here. Now here we go. So this is what the pasted embedded HTML from YouTube looks like. So this has a div wrapper that defines the relative position, a height of 0, and a padding bottom of 56.25%. Inside that div, we have an iframe. So an iframe allows you to pull in content from another site. Primarily, they're used for exactly that, just embedding content from another site. They can be a little tricky to use because they have a width and a height, but then they can also have a style, and that content may be scrollable, which gives a weird usability to your site. So having scroll bars inside of your site is not recommended. Your site should only have one scroll bar. It should be on the right side. Otherwise it's hard to navigate with a keyboard. If you press up and down, which scroll bar should it manipulate. But this embedded content from YouTube is set up in such a way that all that's considered. There's not going to be any scroll bars in here. That's it. So let's go ahead and save. So now I just have an index.html file, which I'll open up. And look, this YouTube video just takes up all the space on the page, and it'll resize with the browser, and it works. So this is just my file index.html, but because it embeds YouTube, it gives all those goodies of YouTube. It has sharing, watch later buttons. You could do full screen, see all related. Yep. And you can click on title, and it'll bring you over to YouTube. So if we wanted to modify that size, so that's a pretty huge video, and it's our entire site. So say we want to limit it to 500 pixels wide. You do that by wrapping this all with a div. On this div, we're going to specify the size, a max width of 500 pixels. Save that, and we open up the page. Now our video is only 500 pixels wide. And also from last class, if we wanted to add, make it more responsive, 500 pixels means different things on each screen. Remember, some screens have the pixels packed in a lot tighter, so 500 pixels would seem a lot smaller per inch. So inside of our head, we should put our viewport tag. I always need to look this up. Let's see. Viewport tag, and it's really the scale, the initial scale, and right here. Initial scale and setting the width to device width. So we can just copy this tag and put it inside of our HTML here. And when we open it again, yeah, it looks the same. What if we go over to mobile view? And now we see it spans the whole page. And if we turn off the viewport, let's turn it off and on again. Take out the whole head. Refresh. It might not make a difference for this video. Oh yeah, okay, there it is. So iPhone 6 Plus packs in the pixels. So 500 pixels on the iPhone 6 Plus is going to be about half the screen. You see the iPhone 6 should have 414 device independent pixels across. So to get that scale to happen, we just need to include the viewport up here. And now 500 pixels would be even further or wider than the screen. We set it as a max width, so the video can still shrink below that. So let's take it a step farther. How about instead of just managing the width directly, let's use Bulma to lay out our page. We learned from last class is a CSS framework that is mobile first, is responsive. It promotes responsive web design, and it's really easy to include your project. So in our projects, we can use yarn add Bulma, npm install Bulma, but we can also just use it directly in our site by downloading it or by including this CDN. So we can grab, we have a copy button right here, and we can include that in our page right here. We didn't actually have to download anything. We can link directly to their CDN, which stands for Content Delivery Network. Sorry, it's not link source. It's link href, and should have this in here as well. A lot of IDEs will do all this for you automatically, so you get every time I have to do it, I have to look it up. So I just looked it up. Sorry, we just have to include the style sheet, and then we have access to everything in Bulma. So again, remember in Bulma we can do things like this. We can have a section, we can even call it a section, and then we have to set the class to section for Bulma. Pull up Bulma so you can see where I'm pulling this from. So the columns, we're going to do this in a second. Actually, let's start with columns. So we're going to have this section. It's actually going to be a div, and we're going to make this the columns container. Then we're going to set, instead of setting the max width here, we're just going to make this column. And we're going to have a column to the left of it. It'll be a navigation column. We'll have nav in here. With Bulma, they're not going to replace any of your tags. They don't have any styling for your tags. You have to put a explicit class on there for Bulma to get activated. So that's why I have all these classes to create an unordered list to be kind of like navigation. These are obviously not links. I'm just listing some elements on the left side to make them look kind of like a navigation menu. All right, so we have two columns. And we'll say this one is going to be 2 or a quarter. So 2 would be 2 out of 12. Remember, so it would be 1/6 of the left side. So when we go to our index.html, now we have, navigation on the left side and the videos on the right side. And then when we get down to a narrow enough screen, the columns collapse into vertical content. So up above, we could have a header. We can make this a hero header. With hero headers, if we look at Bulma, the hero can have a title, subtitle. You have to specify the hero body inside of the hero, so let's make sure we do that. And then we're going to have a couple of elements in here for the title. And Bulma has a subtitle here as well, so we'll use that. So let's check how that's looking now. So now we have this hero header style with a title and subtitle. And we can see these other examples here that have colors. They have this weird gradient one that looks pretty cool. So let's steal that. So we have hero, is medium, is primary, is bold. We're just going to steal is primary and is bold. And we're going to wrap our hero body inside of our hero body with a container to give it a little bit more padding. Is primary, is bold. And inside of the hero body, we're going to create a container. So now our header is looking like this one right here. We can make it larger if we did, is medium, is large. But we're just going to keep it the size we have. And then to give this a little bit more padding down here, to jump straight into columns, looks kind of strange. So we're going to create a section. And wrap all of our content. So collapse that. You can see we're just going to wrap all of our columns inside this section. I'm going to push it in a level. So there we go. So now our section, has provided a little gap here, and it provided a tiny bit of padding on the left and right sides, and it's all responsive. now we're starting to, make our site layout look pretty good, and it wasn't that much effort. If we want to add a footer too, we can do that. So let's add a footer. So when we're doing things, we can refer to the documentation. We can look at the section. That's what I did with the uh, section part. You could have a container inside the section as well. In the footer, we can follow the HTML they have here. If you see here, we can do the container, and this content has text centered. So if you look over here, the container, see description of what the container does. It's going to have margins, and it's going to have a maximum width depending on the screen size you have. So it'll fit the screen size well. And you can have fluid containers that always fit the browser window, but just have a 20 pixel gap on either side. But what was I looking for? I was looking for the content one. So when you can't use CSS classes or you want to just directly use HTML tags, use content as a container. It can handle almost any HTML tag. So see what content looks like. So as an example of it, we're going to actually use it here. So we're going to use content, and we're going to center the text, and we're just going to put a footer on here. /p here, /div to match that div right there, and then another /div to match that container div. Save all this, open up index.html, and now you see we have a footer too. So that's embedding YouTube into your site, and then we just built a little layout around it. So we added a column around the YouTube video. We put a header and footer above the columns containers. We wrapped all this content with a section, and yeah. So now our site, it's like starting to really look like a site, and this has the embedded YouTube in it. If you want to see the finished product, you can go to CodePen. It's a slightly different site. It's a similar concept. So when you go to CodePen, you can choose your view. If you change the full page, you can see the whole site, and then it'll have this header at the top. And it's going to be very similar to the site I just built. So there's a header, there's a section, there's columns. Specifying the video is 9 columns. So there's one column left on the right, so 2 plus 9, 11. So the 12th column is just blank. And then it has a footer with a link to my CIS 137 videos. So this video is about photographing the 2017 solar eclipse, which is occurring on August 21st. Not here. You have to travel to see it, but yeah, I'm currently obsessed with it. Because that's embedding YouTube in normal HTML. What if you want to embed it in React? Generally in React, everything should be a component. So we could create a reusable component out of this YouTube embedding. So in order to figure out how to create a reusable component, let's look at what YouTube gives us. So we press the embed button. Well, first let's look at the share link. So share link is u2.be slash this string of characters and numbers, or letters and numbers. This is the ID for the video. So you'll see it up here as well. So YouTube.watch or /watch, v equals this string of characters again. When we look at the embed, we can see it's youtube.com/embed, and then that string of characters again, and then this question mark EC version 2, whatever that means. Check out another video just to make sure this video wasn't just a fluke. Press share here. It's the same concept. We have this ID for the video, and we go to embed. We have an ID for the video there as well. So that's what specifies the video. We're going to make that a prop in our component in order to specify the video outside of our component. So that way we can reuse the same component to embed different videos. So I'm going to do this straight from scratch. And we're going to do it in WebStorm. I go and create React app and call this view component. It's going to take a second, but we'll go ahead and open it up in WebStorm. So we see our YouTube component here. So when you're opening your project, you should open up the folder here. So select that and press open. If you select any of the files in there, then it's going to not behave as well as it could. We're going to wait for this to download all the way, because if we wait for it to download and set up the source files, then WebStorm will be able to automatically pick it up as a React project. So generally, when we're creating this component, it's going to be a very simple component. It's not going to have capabilities like being able to play the video or anything outside of the controls that are provided in this embedded video. There are components that allow you to do that, and we'll talk about those in a second, but we're going to do a quick and dirty component. The dependencies are almost linked up. Just wait here. Now's a good time to talk about the project, I guess. So don't forget course project part 3. is due on this Friday, and that's displaying the temperature on your website. Check out class 12. It'll talk about the requirements for that. Okay, here we go. Pull up WebStorm, and now we see all the source files in here. We're going to select the YouTube component. And we'll keep this app. We'll put our video inside of here. We're going to create a separate JS file for our YouTube component. The convention for your components is to name it with uppercase letters. In fact, if you don't name it with uppercase letters and you put it in JSX, React JSX just assumes lowercase letters means tags that should just be passed to the browser. They will not be turned into components. But if it has an uppercase letter in the beginning, then that will be rendered as a component. So we need to make sure we always use uppercase letter in our component names. We're going to go ahead and import React. If we can't do it like that, we got to do it like this. Import React. We can stick it just like this. Import React from React. I'm totally doing this totally wrong. Combining it into two. Okay. Import React from React. In order to use JSX, we have to do this line. But we're just going to use a straight functional component. So export default function. We can name it. So this export default, this is a shortcut as opposed to an export default YouTube. We could break this up in 2 lines, or we could do what I just did in ES6 for default. This just has to return the JSX. Let's go get the embed code here. If we try to just put this embed directly into our JSX, it's going to have some problems. So one of the major problems is that these style elements, inline styles, are handled differently in JSX. You have to specify them as an object. They would have to look like this sorta, and with commas separating everything, and with strings as the values, and any dashes should be replaced by the next letter, the capital letter. So that's all, kind of busy work. It's kind of annoying. It is prone to error because you have to make all these little changes, and then React's complaining, or WebStorm's complaining about XML tag has empty body, so you have to do things like self-close that. So in order to make it easier, let's use our HTML to JSX converter. Unclick this create class. We already created our class. And now the resulting JSX over here has done this objectification of the style. I don't know if that's the right word for it. It sounds fun. So now we can, add some spacing. With these styles, you can do something like this that makes them a lot more readable. generally putting each attribute on its own line will give you the most readable experience. Let's see, let's just press Control Alt F and see what, or Control Alt L. Pull it in, put this height and frame border on its own line as well. And the key here is just to make it more readable. So with this style element, we can do the same thing, but I'm just going to leave it, since it's just one attribute, I'm just going to leave it in line with that. This tag right here, WebStorm doesn't support this yet, but a common style guideline for that is to make it in line with all the attributes. All right, so now we have our YouTube component. And we're not going to add any props yet. We're going to do that in a second, but we're just going to try to use our YouTube component in our app.js. So we can go ahead and add it in the app intro. Or let's just add it right after the app intro. So add another section here. And we'll just put the YouTube video in here. See, we can't just use YouTube right here. We see missing import statement. We have to import it first. We're going to import YouTube from the file of YouTube. And we don't need the .js because .js is the default. So if we leave it blank, WebStorm will React will automatically import from the JS file. So let's run this. Terminal's coming up. I think I need to figure this out for my computer. The terminals have been really slow recently. I think maybe I just need to restart. That usually fixes the problems, right? And off and on again. So my video is popping up on my other desktop. Here we go. Now we see Welcome to React. We have our app intro, and then we have a section with our YouTube video, which we can play. We can see all the related videos. We can interact with it just like we would on YouTube. Let's say we don't want to always just include Mortal Kombat 1 behind the scenes. So we want to specify an ID, a video ID. So we're going to use that right here inside the source. So specify it here so we can see how it looks over here first. And have a video ID equals, and we'll give it a video ID from YouTube. Let's get this one instead. So now we see we have the ID up here. We can just grab it directly from the URL, or we can look at it when we press share. We can grab it from this URL here. We need these string of characters. So now let's inject our ID into this URL here. So look, iframe elements must have a unique title property. So this is the ESLint, and having any of these warnings, you should resolve them as soon as you can so they don't keep on building up. So let's give it a title. We're actually going to give it a YouTube, and we're going to give it the ID that we pass in from props. Here to do the template literal string, I had to use the curly braces to go into JavaScript mode inside of the JSX, and then use the backtick, and then when I want to use our props value, use a $, curly brace, in our props value. and then close it with another backtick. So we're going to do that the same thing with the source here. And replace these double quotes with backticks, and we're going to surround the whole thing with the curly braces. Then we have our link here. We're going to replace the ID with our curly brace props video ID. Going to save all this, and we have compiled successfully. No warnings. Great. Let's go to React app, and we see now our video has changed to the 10 funny moments of actors caught without digital effects, which looks like you're pointing at a lot of people with like ping pong balls taped all over them or other kinds of visual indicators for the CGI. Fun stuff. Fun stuff. Now we have our YouTube component. So we don't have to remember, we don't have to go to get the embed code anymore from YouTube. All we should do is get an ID and we can embed the videos on our site. We could add more properties to specify the width and the width, the height. You could do all kinds of properties like that. And we can include Balma in here as well. Balma on this site would operate a little differently than what we did on the straight HTML. So in straight HTML, we included Balma with the CDN link. But here we can do yarn add Balma. So once we add Balma, we have to import it. We can import it in our index for the app.js. Remember with Balma, let's put this at the top. Let's put it before all our relative imports. Import Balma / let's look at the directory structure to get this right. So get on to Balma / CSS / Balma.css. We do that, then we can use Balma's goodness. So we can use down here to add section. And we can put some columns in here. We got left side, and then we'll make a right side as well. And our center content. Now press Control L to reformat. And we're missing one last /div. Right, so let's check. We have our column, inside of columns. We imported Balma. So now we go back over here, make sure it's saved. We have our left side, our right side, and our center. All these have equal width, so we can, cut down the equal width, make the left side smaller, right side smaller, going inside here. And we can say is 2, is 3, or is quarter, 1/4, is 1/4. Either side takes a quarter, and that remaining half is taken up by the middle, or we could shrink it even farther with the is 2. That was very very simple to make that YouTube component. So the important parts were that you need to convert that embeddable HTML to JSX. Easiest way to do that is with that tool. And then the second thing you need to do is to create a component. And then you need to expose the props and make things configurable. Now we can see this YouTube component to the extreme. Well, first we can check out the source code that I just did. It's also on a code pin. So inside this YouTube component, it sets all those things, it has a props video ID. But I also have this fancy frame too, just because to show you how to do that. So to remind you, you can wrap components with other components and then use props.children inside that wrapper component um, to render the YouTube inside of the fancy frame. So you see this fancy frame just as this border, the dash purple, and then the shadow border as well. So it looks like a little frame. So to use it, you just do fancy frame YouTube video ID slash fancy frame. So YouTube component, very simple. And then let's look at a not so simple YouTube component, or a more mature component. So this one has a lot more, work on it. It has contributors. There's 254 commits. There's 2 branches. It's a React YouTube. So this lets me set the video ID, another ID, class name, and then it has all these callbacks for, when the video is ready, when the video changes, if there's an error. So you can even, set autoplay in here as well. So all the options. And then it creates a YouTube component for you. This one has a YouTube video ID of this, and then it has options, and then it has a callback for the ready. And when it's ready, it's going to pause the video. There's an official API that you can use on YouTube, and it looks like it's a uh, similar interaction with React component. Look at the source code, we can see what it looks like here. So there's some functions here inside the YouTube component, and then we have our YouTube component class. And it's defining the prop types. We're going to talk about doing this static definition of prop types and these default props on another class. And then it does some lifecycle methods. So when the component mounted, it created the player, does these checks if the component should actually update or not. If any of the state changes or the props change. It says create player, and so on and so forth. So this is using some uncontrolled components by reassigning them to this dot ref. I'm gonna go over that another day too. Let's see if I can find where they're actually doing it. The render. I can't see it, at first glance. That's okay. We could figure it out, but let's just bask in the glory of our simple component. It's just a ID. But if we wanted a more mature component, we could definitely just pull this into our project. So in fact, let's try it. Let's just do it. So we have our project over here. Let's yarn add React. Is it YouTube React or React YouTube? React YouTube. So we're just going to replace our YouTube with the React YouTube. Just make sure. I think we just import it like that. It's just one component. Doesn't have any other notes on there. So we're going to import YouTube from React YouTube. We're going to keep our same YouTube in here. YouTube video ID. It actually has the same interface if I look. So just to prove that it's working, I'm going to restart it. And it's loading. And it works. It works exactly the same. So if we're just interested in video ID, we could use our component, which is very super simple. Or if we're interested in not creating our own components, we can just use React YouTube. And then we get all this goodness of, all the callbacks and everything built in. So we can stand on the shoulders of that open source project. So again, project 3 due on Friday, 7/21 at 8 a.m. Make sure you get it in. Other than that, hope you guys learned something. I'll talk to you on Monday. All right, see you guys.